I haven't got time to mark this motherfucker. Here we go again. We can't hear anybody. Nobody can talk to anybody.
You guessed it, Pressure Points with your two favorite hosts. I'm D, and this is Perverse AJ. We're coming at you with Season 7, Episode 20, The Cobra Effect. I'm getting into some weird shit, but it's going to be a fucking good time. So strap in, find us on Instagram and Patreon, pointsopressure.com. Let's get fucking to it, bitch.
Well, turn the fucking thing off, you dumbass.
So I saw you out there priming some of those 3 printed stuff.
Yeah.
You print those today?
No.
Yesterday? Recently? You just have been having them
like
for a while?
2.5 months ago.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, they've just been sitting there.
All right, just...
Yeah. Got some time to myself this weekend.
Finally.
Finally, no. Abby's been... It's so weird that I can, actively use her name now that everyone knows who she is.
Yeah.
No, she went on a trip this weekend, so it's been me and the 2 dogs.
D in the basement with some wieners.
Yeah, D and the 2 wieners. It's the new sitcom, the Pressure Points sitcom.
Featuring the actor who brought you Young Sheldon.
Yeah. From the writers of Young Sheldon and
Modern
CSI
Family.
Miami. God.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's been a really quiet weekend. It's been nice though.
Nice.
Yeah. The fucking backlight on our TV broke.
Oh, shit. It
Yeah,
did? Like
that's
the
why-
actual
that's why I had to
whole
have-
fucking thing?
Yeah, that's why I had to have you fucking order
I thought
those.
those were LED backlights,
Nope.
that you put behind things.
Nope, it's for the fucking inner TV piece, yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so Tuesday I'm going to be replacing those.
So no TV till Tuesday?
No, I mean, we have the one in the front room. That's the one in the bedroom.
Oh, that's the bedroom
which
one.
sucks because that's the one that we use
That's
more
one
than
you
anything
use
else.
all the time, yeah.
But yeah, I turned it on, last night? I laid down, go to turn it on, and I was like, what the fuck? And I went up with a flashlight and got right next to it, and I could see that it was displaying, but it's not projecting.
Weird.
Has no light, but if you shine a flashlight at it, you can see it. So I pulled up 7 videos where people were like, oh, yeah, I take it apart. And I was like, all right, well, if it doesn't work, then we'll go buy a new one. Fuck it.
Yeah, you're only out $30, so.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I mean, the fix doesn't seem hard at all, in all honesty.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that I have to do it that's...
Yeah, I totally relate to that.
Yeah.
Your drill charged by
Yeah.
any chance? Okay, that's good.
Well, I have the charger for it. So.
Yeah, I lost my charger. So, hey, remind me to grab that when we're done here.
No, I need it.
A huge part of the siding on the house fell off.
Is that what that sound was?
I think so.
Jesus.
It was blending in on the side of the house that I don't go to all the time.
Yeah,
So.
behind the tree and shit.
Yeah, so that's fun. But that doesn't have to be on the show today.
Yeah, that's the episode theme.
But
yeah.
I'm almost halfway through my days off from work.
Yeah, this is the first episode since you started working.
Yeah,
How's it been?
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm loving it.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
It's nice not being. This is sponsored by McDonald's and Blue Chew. Get Viagra without seeing a doctor today.
Yeah, sorry, not ad free for you, those of you on Patreon
Yeah.
anymore.
Just for those two.
Yeah.
But yeah, does it count as a sponsorship if we're just going to send them an invoice?
No. I think
Perfect,
it's all
yeah.
right. Yeah.
And we're set. So, I forgot what I was saying. Oh, yeah, not school, work.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah, no, really good to not be, in the bitch position. I say that nicely. I do very much appreciate, the techs and the people who make it so that I don't have to do that shit. So I have to do
whatever.
the other stuff.
1%er piece of shit.
I wish I was a 1%er. give me 10 years in the role. Maybe I'll get to a 10%er.
Yeah, maybe a 40%er.
Yeah, I'm shooting for a 40%er now.
Just 10% above the average.
Yep. So, yeah, no, it's really good. It's great, man. People are crazy. I work in psych wards.
Yeah.
Let's be that. That's as generic as I should probably be.
Psych ward with a parentheses S.
Yeah, pretty much. damn, people are crazy.
Yeah.
No,
Bitches be tripping.
yeah, that's how all the nurses at the nurse station, they're like, damn, bitch, you tripping.
Yeah.
Just crying.
Oh,
No, it's
Jesus.
good. It's really good. Yeah, who'd think I am a mental health professional?
Yeah. I don't know.
Licensed?
I don't know about that one.
With a 4-year degree. Yeah, all right.
God dang.
Yeah. So
lock up your fucking mental health patient relatives.
yeah.
Lock up your mentally unstable daughters. Jesus.
I hope that, if I ever get recognized for my voice, I hope it's at work.
Yeah. Someone's
Because
like,
that would be funny.
someone's like, oh, I know what you're from. And you're
like,
like,
don't talk-
shit,
we don't
they
talk
know
about
about
that.
it from the podcast. And they're like, oh, you're one of my sleep paralysis
Oh,
demons.
yeah.
Oh, fuck, never mind.
100%. That's how it'll
and
be.
you're just like, whoo, what a relief.
Oh, thank goodness I'm just a sleep paralysis demon.
Oh, I'm just a trigger for these people.
Yeah.
That's all.
It's like, oh, you've been seeing me for the last 20 years? Okay. Yeah, at least you don't know my podcast.
Yeah, right. At least you don't know that
This
I go
meeting
by
has been
AJ in my
prophesized.
spare time.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, it's good. I'm still waiting for that paycheck. It's been almost a whole month.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's tight. No, it's not bad. So yeah, what do you have for me? You came to me with 2 really good names for this episode.
2 really fucking good title names. But before we get into that, if you would like an ad-free version of this episode and all of our previous episodes, go check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/pointsopressure. Yeah, you get ad-free. You get an extra episode on the first day of every month that was for the previous month.
Is it my episode this month?
No, it's mine.
Okay.
And then we have a ton of sloppy seconds. AJ has a series called Voices and an inside look at the studio. So pop on there, check it out. We also have a free tier where you can get some exclusive shit there. So go make an account, click around on there, check it out. And if you're not going to do that, or if you do it, go to Instagram as well.
Do.
Go to Instagram.com/r/2 lowercase d capital E. No,
I was like,
check us out on Instagram at Points of Pressure. She puts a ton of work into it. And in this episode or this week, there will be a lot of pictures of snakes. So check that one out.
oh, real? Will there? Okay.
All right. So we are going to talk today about, obviously, the Cobra Effect, a.k.a. perverse incentive. Perverse incentive was also in the works for maybe being the title for this week's episode, but Cobra Effect sounded like a cool tattoo, so we had to go with that one.
Hell yeah.
So a perfect example of this, and it's actually how I found this initially, Season 6, Episode 12, Doomer and the Rat Hack. The whole premise behind that episode, if you don't want to go back and listen to a hilarious, really fun, awesome episode, then the short story is that Hanoi had a rat problem. They pushed it onto the poors, and then when the poors were getting sick and dying and filling up their hospitals, excuse me.
Nice.
They told them, hey, we'll pay you per rat tail. But people ended up turning in the rat tails, turning in the rat bodies and everything. But they would also capture rats, cut off their tails, breed them, cut off the tails of the younger ones, and it in turn made...
You created rat farms.
Yeah, it turned the problem into a bigger problem. So, perverse incentives are incentives that result in an unintended negative consequence as people take advantage of receiving the incentive. I know that it's a lot of really big words for my episodes. I know it's not something you would really see at a 4th grade reading level, but I figured that was the easiest way to break it down.
So this is like what you were talking about, what you did when you did sales.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, okay.
I was on the fence whether I was going to talk about that. If we have time at the end, I'll talk about it.
All right. Stick around, but to the end.
Stick around because I do have a situation where I took advantage of and completely shifted program for a major fast food chain, and that's why I'm a fat fuck now. But yeah, so perverse incentive, it's also known as Goodhart's Law, which is when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure, as well as any observed statistical regularity will tend to collapse once pressure is placed upon it for control purposes. So it's kind of the idea of, if we set, and I mean, I currently do this still, if to compare it and kind of put it in everyone's eyes in like a very
this is way over my head.
It all sounds really complex, but imagine your company comes out and they say, hey, we just need you to do 10 things for your productivity for every hour while you're at work, right? Mm-hmm. And so people go, okay, cool. And they're like, but we want you to be productive like all day, so it needs to be every hour. This is currently what I'm going through. And so I go, okay, I'll just do all 10 things really quickly. And then I do nothing for 50 minutes. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, there are other people that are overachieving. They're like truly working for the full hour. And, you know, the goal should be 50, but they set the target at the lower area and it ceases to become a good measure because people like me are taking advantage of that metric, right?
Yeah.
I'll get into further examples, but if you think back to that Hanoi rat problem, that's exactly what it is you're saying, hey, we'll pay you for these, and then someone finds, you know, the loophole in the system and says, well, I can do this but tenfold, and I can turn this into a fucking job. Like this is income now, because if I breed these, one rat suddenly equals 20, which suddenly equals 20 additional payouts. So why the fuck not?
Like the people, you know, at the company, they have to be careful about setting those goals, because if it's too high,
it's unattainable.
It's unattainable, and people are going to work less. Yeah. But if it's too low, then it
It incentivizes people.
It incentivizes either. Let's say it incentivizes creativity.
I will say I will say, any system like this, especially in like a corporate setting with benchmarks and KPIs, any system like this is better than doing an average, because an average is guaranteeing that people will fail. Like you're guaranteeing disciplinary action.
Yeah.
If you're saying, okay, well, you just need to reach the average, only 50% of the people are going to, well, not 50%, but you're always going to have people that aren't in the average, because that's how it fucking works.
Because that's how an average works.
So instead, it's like, this is beneficial, but it's kind of tit for tat.
I mean, like, either way,
there's
it's not
really
a good...
way of, there's not really a good way of figuring out that productivity, but fuck them.
Well, yeah, fuck
works for me.
I'm going to say that any business that really depends on like KPIs at an individual level just are trying to grasp to micromanage anybody, because it's not a good measure of what you're actually doing. Like, I had KPIs in my last job. I would hit them and have 4 hours left in the day on some days, or I would always try to find the way to do the easiest ones first.
Yeah. All I do is every single day I further and further push the note to see how far I can abuse this 12 things per hour while I still slip under the radar, because I'm reaching what they want.
You're reaching the goal.
But I'm not below it, so there's not a target on my back. So
exactly. Yeah. Really, it's just... Ideally, if you want people to do good work and to stay busy throughout their day, respect that they're humans and don't want to be doing the same thing all day, set a realistic expectation of... And it has to be something someone cares about. You know, nobody gives a shit about doing anything in an Excel spreadsheet.
It should never be a team-based system.
Or an individual based.
Yeah, it should be strictly based on your own individual
like your own. Yeah. But even then, I don't think it should be based on statistics. And
that's what I'm
the
saying.
Human thing.
Is that when you base on statistics, you have to have a set of statistics that you're basing it off of, which generally is being compared against somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
And instead, when you say, "Hey, we're going to compare it against your own," if I'm only doing fucking 45
things,
making 45 marbles a day, and I've done 45 marbles a day for the last 6 months, you wouldn't sit down and go, okay, well, based on Jerry's averages, you need to do 70 per day. It doesn't make any sense. You would say, hey, okay, reach 45 again. That's your productivity.
Cool, there you
level.
go.
But what do I know?
What do I know?
I don't support capitalism, so why the fuck would you want my opinion?
Well, here's the next
on it?
thing. You know, at my work, I'm going from a KPI position to
a quality
care position, a patient care position. And while I'm not dealing with medically unstable patients, you know, there are some days where you're running, you're busy every single moment of the night, and there's some days where you get 3 hours where everybody fell asleep.
Yeah.
And I can just do whatever I want. Like,
it's just those like productivity jobs. Fucking
they
production positions are bullshit. So after all that, sorry,
a little
going
sidetrack.
a little bit of a rant. So Goodhart's law, when the measure becomes a target, that entire thing was actually an anti-Margaret Thatcher sentiment because Margaret Thatcher had very broken policies around. I guess the best way to put it is they had like you have like liquid assets and then you have like hard cash, right?
Yeah.
And her policy, I won't try to get into it because I was just like, I read through it and was like, bro, what the fuck? But it was a bad setup that was basically like, hey, make all of your cash into liquid assets. And that's going to benefit you
cash
further.
Is a liquid asset.
Well, not liquid assets, but like
illiquid assets, like investments.
It's like I said, I'm not going to try to get into all of it, but it's like your home, your car, your all
so
of these.
Those are not liquid assets.
Yeah, so non-liquid. It was saying shift and basically make all of your liquid into non-liquid.
Yeah, that's why billionaires are billionaires.
And
today.
they were doing like a huge money shift because it's Margaret Thatcher and she's a piece of shit.
The Thatch Master.
The female Ronald Reagan.
Thatch your gash. Yeah, it's female Ronald Reagan entirely.
So it's just more and more was coming out about this. The reason I want to do so many of these specific events, but there aren't a lot of historical Cobra Effect events. I'm sure there are, but that are like so clear cut and like broken down. Hey, this
is why. And this is that.
Like it's hard for me to find like a full fucking list of them. Where I can just pick and
there's
choose.
not a Wikipedia list of this.
Yeah, well there is. It's just they're all more current events.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's not a Wikipedia list of historical examples.
Historical Cobra effects. So, like I said, I've talked about a couple of them in past episodes, but the term Cobra Effect itself actually was around perverse incentives. I should say the reason perverse incentive was called Cobra Effect was actually because of something that happened in India. So in 1875, Britain ruled over India. And yearly, they were having like just high numbers of death by what they labeled was the Indian cobra, but it wasn't actually accurate. It fell under what is called the Big Four, which are the Russell's viper, the common krait, the Indian saw scale viper, and the Indian cobra. They were having about 20,000 people per year that would die to venomous snake bites. All four of these deadly venomous snakes. It's like I feel like India with snakes is identical to
spiders.
Australia with spiders. Yeah,
I was thinking that too.
Like if you live in a country where they have the Big Four and you're not talking about like wrestlers, like get the fuck out.
Yeah, leave.
If it's referring to something that will kill you, like with poison, don't stay there. So yeah, all four of these snakes attribute to this. The Indian cobra just kind of like fell under it because it was the most commonly seen because of how it hunts. it's not like the others are really like ground snakes per se, but because the Indian cobra's entire diet is based off of like rats, small lizards, frogs, they tend to just like follow through the brush, and people would run into them all the time. I have some fun facts about the Indian cobra.
Oh yeah, that's Native American cobra.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, that's a bad joke.
Most commonly used by snake charmers. It is not the king cobra that a lot of people think of, but they do have a lot of similarities.
They're both cobras.
Yeah,
one is a king and one is an Indian.
There you go. It's actually a protected species after the Indian Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. I didn't know that it was a protected species.
Oh, all right.
It's interesting, especially considering
I
what
was
we're
going
going
to
to talk
say,
about
I wonder if
later in
it's
this
related.
episode.
I wonder if it's related.
I doubt it. So the average lifespan for cobras living in the wild is 24 years.
Damn.
For some reason, that's like such a big number.
That's a
That's
long
an
time.
old-ass cobra. Damn. And that's average.
Damn.
They are, like I said, not king cobras, but they are smaller. However, they kill more people per year than king cobras do.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Standing out. Hey, if you're gonna stand out in a field,
stand out.
Yeah. The tallest.
Yeah, exactly.
I totally butchered that saying. I don't even know what it is.
So the Brits that are in India at this time, they're fucking spooked because it's like I said, this is 20,000 people a year.
That's a lot of people.
That's
Holy
a lot
shit.
of people.
What was the population of India in 1870?
Not a clue, but you also got to take into account all the Brits that are shifting over there and everything.
No, that'll work.
But yeah, and that's just to venomous snakes. Like, Jesus Christ. So, in the early 1890s, Britain came out and they put out a bounty on these nasty fuckers. They would pay per snake that's turned in, whether it's dead or alive. And as the years went by, the number of deaths did not change. 1891, 20,000. 1892, like 19,500. 1893, 21,000. It's
not making an effect.
Shifting anywhere.
But is it because people are actively hunting down snakes, so they're getting bit more to make up for the snakes who are actually taken off the street?
Very likely so, yeah.
I've got a number here.
Yeah.
1870, the population of India was 214 million.
Ooh, so 10% of people are dying every year.
That's a big...
That's a lot of people dying. 10% of your annual deaths are going to fucking... Is that 10%? Yeah, 10% of 200,000?
No, 200 million.
Oh, I thought you said 200,000.
214 million.
Oh, okay. So that's
like,
0.1%.
Yeah, but that's still that's a massive
still small.
Still a ton of people.
But it's still significant. So yeah, the number of deaths isn't changing. Like you said, yeah, it's probably a lot of people that are trying to catch or kill these for pay. But in 1892, they had 85,000 snakes that were turned in and paid for, and almost 120,000 in 1893.
Damn, that's a lot of snakes.
Yeah, it's a shit ton. The bounty eventually had to be lowered because they were paying out so much, and they're paying out all this money, but it's not making any difference in their death rate. Like, if you're paying out all this money for snakes, you would expect the death rate to go down.
Yeah, to be
as
going
well.
down. Like, that's the whole point.
Yeah. And it was discovered that a lot of people were breeding these snakes. They were catching them, having them breed. They would keep them in a fucking pit, whatever. And it was suspected that officials that were getting them, like, you're handed a basket of 4 venomous snakes that are all alive and pissed. Like, what are you going to do? Throw it in your fucking, like, fireplace? Like, so in a lot of instances, people do think that these were just released back.
They were just dumping the basket out.
That they're
just
like,
throw it out your window.
Whatever's dead will burn, but, like, I'm not going to try to fuck with killing these snakes. I don't want to die. I don't want to be a statistic too.
Hey, you know what? Good for those snakes.
Now, luckily, not by the incentive. This is where a lot of people, I think, argue that it's not a perverse incentive, but it in no way is something that was affected by. I'll get into it in a second.
Okay.
So, by publicizing money for snakes, people have their eyes on the ground, and they're hunting for them, right?
Yeah.
So, awareness for snakes becomes higher. People are like, oh, if I happen to see an unaware cobra, Indian cobra lying around that's not paying attention, I can smash its head. Also, if I see one that's like sneaking around, if I can catch it, I'll make some money. So people are consciously aware of snakes more than previously. Yeah, there's still people dying, likely because they're trying to catch them. But because they're being discovered and found more often, people are taking better precautions to avoid them. Farmers start wearing thicker and taller boots so that if while they're farming, they don't
get
step on one and it bites through their boot and kills them. They don't become the statistic. They aren't necessarily catching them every time, but they're like, okay,
but at least they're not dying.
They're taking steps to prevent deaths, and overall, that awareness over the course of years leads to fewer deaths, but the incentive itself clearly isn't what caused that lowered rate of death, because during the years of incentive, it didn't lower it.
Yeah. It was the result of the awareness, rather than the actual incentive itself, which is pretty funny that they paid that much money when they could have just done an awareness campaign.
Yeah, seriously.
But
a lot of people might not have been as aware because they didn't have a chance.
Because they weren't
paid.
They were incentivized to actually learn, and that's the problem with a lot of awareness programs is there's no incentive to get the information that's being gathered or given to you, like people with flyers and shit. Like, nobody grabs a flyer off somebody on the street.
Yeah, exactly.
So
and if they do, they just throw it away.
Exactly. So, little column A, little column B.
Yeah. So that's the origin of the Cobra Effect, is relabeling perverse incentive. Another prime example of this, and this one isn't as historical as I would like, still 20 years ago.
That's, oh God, that's historical.
Yeah, right. In the early 2000s, the U.S. Army specifically offered bounties for the tails of feral pigs in Georgia. Feral pigs are, if you don't know anything about feral pigs, they are a farmer's fucking nightmare. You would think, oh yeah, wild pigs, whatever, wild boars, who gives a shit? Like, let them run around. Like, what are they going to do?
That's what
like,
I say, even knowing.
Like, run your fucking house over? Like, a lot of people think they're not very dangerous, but they can, because of the way that they forage for food, they, like, dig their snout and their little tusks into the ground, and in a matter of, like, one night, they can shred a farmer's entire, like, acres of crops.
I'm anti-farmer.
Oh, okay. I'm sure. So, yeah, you only eat processed
Meat.
American cheese.
Processed American meats.
Jesus Christ. I only eat lab-grown meats.
Oh, fuck yeah. I wish.
So, yeah, they're like, farmers fucking hate them. They are destructive because when they get in their fucking packs and they're just like barreling, they can knock down fences. It can lead to, like, I don't know, your little herd of lambs running out.
Well, maybe
forest,
you shouldn't have put your
whatever.
farm there.
Yeah, well, maybe it shouldn't have a fucking, like, invasive species.
It's indigenous.
No,
it's not.
No,
I'm
it's
just
not.
It is now.
Yeah. I don't know if you can call something an indigenous species and say it is an indigenous species now. God damn, that's some fucking white supremacist shit if I've ever heard it.
100%.
They're also extremely aggressive towards deer and turkeys, which drive them out of areas. It can shift the ecosystem because of how much they forage, how aggressive they can be towards other animals. They're very, very problematic. And if the U.S. Army is like, hey, we need help, there's a fucking problem.
It gives me vibes of the Great Australian Ostrich War, or whatever that was.
The Emu Wars.
The Emu War. Ostrich, emu. Yeah, it's the old Emu Wars. We set up a bounty for this thing, and
you're getting beat by it.
And you're getting beat.
So they offer $40 for every single tail.
Okay.
And
me and Jack Harlow gonna go get the what are those boats called? Those hover boats.
yeah.
Jump through.
Fucking bolt down one of the white lawn chairs on top of your truck.
Yeah. And just have a dude up there with a fucking shotgun.
Bolted onto a lazy Susan.
Oh, fuck
so
yeah.
you can spin around with
you
your
can
shotgun.
rotate.
So the problem with this is that it's not very easy for the U.S. Army specifically to be able to tell the difference between feral pigtails and regular pigtails.
Yeah, because they're pigs.
So people are going to local butchers that they know, and they're like, hey,
give me all the pigtails.
Yeah, I'll buy them from you. And the butcher's like, I throw these away. Yeah, I'll pay me $7 for them. Fuck it. And then someone takes these tails to the U.S. Army, and they get paid $33 in profit. They make $40, like almost $40. It's just the Army isn't fully aware that this is happening while it's not solving their problem.
Yeah.
Over the course of 2 years, the pig population increases. Not only is it causing further damage, but a lot of it is also being attributed to breeders that are starting to catch them, house them, breed them, cut their little tails off, and just cycle it through.
Yeah. Because
you can make a shit ton of money doing it.
They eat anything. No, I don't know.
I mean, yeah.
Probably pretty easy to feed them.
The male pigs, on average, start to get healthier, which lead to higher birth rates. They're getting healthier because the bait that these people are using to catch them to cut off their tail and not kill them, it's better than them foraging.
Yeah.
And it's better than them trying to find food. They're just getting
food.
Pig feed that has a shit ton of nutrients in it. So in turn, they're more virile. Like,
Hell
it's
yeah.
just
hey,
like,
good for
oh
them.
my God.
Good for them. All right.
Hunters then start avoiding pigs or younger pigs and the females because they want the big one as a trophy hunt. And so they're seeing these little ones and they're like, oh yeah, like if you can catch it, cut off its tail. But like, I want to hunt the big one rather than actually doing what the Army is wanting them to do. And ultimately, it raises awareness that these pigs are a problem, but it never really solved it. It never really hashed it, and it still is a problem to this day.
There are still places with bounties.
Yeah, it's still so far out of hand in like the southern U.S. Canada is starting to have problems with it as well. It's just like, it's like I said, they're this bad invasive species, and it's like
I want them to take over Toronto.
Yeah, right.
I want the pigs to own
Toronto. I think they're on their way there already. So perverse incentive is not always based around animals. I know those are the only stories that I've done, but a lot of that is because they make for more interesting content. The UK specifically has regulations to protect historical buildings to prevent owners from like renovating and tearing down and changing the inside because shit, a lot of these buildings have been around
so
for
old, yeah.
fucking centuries. And they use this regulation to preserve potential historic monuments because they don't know whether something's a historical monument until they go check it.
Yeah.
So, it kind of slows the process. And if you're wanting to do renovations and you have the cash to do it, there's a chance that these regulations stop you. So a lot of people the freedoms crowd
yes.
wouldn't like this particularly. So in 2017, a 400-year-old ceiling was ripped out and torn down a day before an inspection to avoid it being listed as historical, as it very clearly is. Something from the 1600s.
Jesus.
A ceiling built in the 1600s.
Just destroyed because they don't want to deal with the
They
bullshit.
tore it down. They're not necessarily at like they can't be charged or anything because it's plausible deniability due
because
to the
it wasn't
fact
proven
that it wasn't listed as a historical site before it was torn down.
It wasn't scheduled, is what they say.
And now that it's torn down, these people are able to do whatever renovations they want because it's not a historical site.
Oh, those I learned a little bit about that stuff that they do from Time Team, which is an archaeological show. When they go on to or near scheduled properties that are recognized as historical, they only have like a certain amount of square feet that they can like excavate archaeologically, because archaeology is inherently destructive. You are removing things from the dirt.
And hoping that you aren't damaging.
And even if you're, taking out artifacts that aren't being damaged, you're still damaging the historical context of that site.
It's
rough. So they can only do a little bit at a time, and it has to be all very documented and surveyed out so that in the future people can know, oh, this spot right here isn't actually really historical anymore. It's been entirely dug out. So if we need to learn something about the site or anything, it's there. It's like people who you can go into southern Utah and find pottery on the ground. Mm-hmm. You can find parts of arrowheads and tools and all this stuff down there. But if you take it, you're a son of a bitch. Not only because you're removing that artifact from the historical context. Like a lot of people will pick them up and then put them on a rock. Never do that, because it removes it from the historical context if that site is excavated in the future.
Yeah. They won't know what site to excavate.
Well, they won't be able to date it. A lot of dating is done by, it's the layers in the dirt. So if this piece of pottery was at this point, but then someone picked it up and moved it on top of a rock, that can no longer be used as dateable evidence for trying to set up a timeline of that settlement or whatever they're looking for. I do not touch shit when you find it. Look at it, enjoy it, leave it for other people to enjoy. All right, sorry. That's my.
No, you're good.
That's my derailing.
No reason to apologize. It's something that I think a lot of people don't take into account, because it is cool as shit to have and own an arrowhead. That's fucking cool. But you know what's cooler? If it's in a museum.
Oh, God. All right. You belong in a museum. Or no, so do you. That's what he says. Fuck.
So back to perverse incentive. Medicare is actually an example of this, because doctors get a higher reimbursement rate if they prescribe or administer higher cost medication.
Yes, I've heard of this before. It's a huge problem.
Patients aren't getting the less expensive option due to the incentive, and in some cases they're having insurance issues, and therefore it de-incentivizes people to go back in, because it was an ultimately more expensive procedure than it should have been when there were cheaper options.
Dude, Medicare fraud is crazy.
Oh yeah, dude.
There are doctors who will just
I fucking know.
prescribe
That's what I
so
go
much
over at
shit.
work.
Oh yeah, you do. You see that shit all the time.
Yeah.
They over-prescribing, over-medicating, over-treating anything. Some people. I'm not going to say every doctor does this, but it used to be bad in the mid-2000s. Yeah. I think that was the peak, during the opioid epidemic.
I'm sure.
That's what drove a lot of the opioid epidemic,
It's identical to what the entire opioid epidemic and all pharmaceuticals currently do. Pharmaceutical reps are a perfect example of perverse incentive, because you go into a healthcare facility and you say, hey, prescribe out X drug, we'll pay you this. The doctor's more likely to prescribe it because they're getting an incentive.
They're getting a kickback.
But it's not giving the patient necessarily. Obviously, this is a lot of speculation.
No, this is true.
But
this happens.
They aren't getting the exact care they need because it's a monetary incentive rather than health for the patient.
Well, like with opioids, there are tons of non-opioid painkillers, analgesics. But when you are getting a kickback from oxycodone, you're going to give them Oxy if they are having pain because you get a lot more money from it.
But it's
rather than just saying,
substance
okay, here's some ibuprofen 800s or some of these other nerve medications. It's just, this is easier and I get paid extra on top of you're paying me and now they're paying me. Huge fucking issue. Obviously,
wild.
Now I'm pretty sure it's mostly illegal.
Yeah, I think there's been a shit ton of regulation.
There's been a lot of crackdown. Because you used to be able to there were some doctors who would go on full vacations and think of almost any Supreme Court justice, and the doctors were getting that treatment.
Yeah,
it's they were on vacation, they were getting cars, they were going. There were conventions being thrown by opioid manufacturers where it was these are the top sellers, which feels like a pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
And it's let's go to Cancun.
Yeah.
We'll pay you because you got this person addicted to our drugs.
It's such a perfect example of it. So insurance companies, depending on the type of treatment and not treatment, but depending on the type of coverage that they offer, if they happen to have better prices for treatment over prevention, that in and of itself is perverse incentive because going in for regular cheap checkups could prevent someone from putting all of those off. You could catch something earlier if you're going in, but if you have to pay more often for or it's not covered as often, you go into a facility, it's in your eyes, it's better to wait until something big and bad actually happens because that's going to get covered. You're incentivized to get your coverage when you're having heart attacks rather than going in prior to that and having
6 months
discussions
or every year and preventative. Even though, it's way cheaper for you if it gets caught earlier. If you catch your cancer super early, super treatable, super high survival rate. Almost every disease, if you catch it early, it can be treated cheaper and more efficiently than if you catch it late stage.
Yeah. So watch out for make sure you're getting the right kind of fucking coverage.
Well, yeah. Most insurance now is preventative care is covered.
Yeah.
Check it out. Please go in.
I think it's because of this and because insurance companies know that prevention is so much better now. But I mean, God, 20, 30 years ago, of course it would have been flipped because
you're wasting time because there's nothing wrong.
They're not going to get as much flack online when they're just denying fucking everything.
Also, everybody, if you got titties, check your titties every time you shower.
Yeah.
If you got balls, check your balls every time you shower.
Yep.
Super important.
Give a little squeeze.
Doesn't matter your age.
Yep.
Doesn't matter your history.
Nothing wrong with checking yourself.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yep. Before the cancer wrecks yourself.
Yeah. Yep.
In very few cases, and I will say only when I'm wearing my one-time use Ronald Reagan goggles, the quote-unquote welfare trap concept falls under perverse incentive. I don't think that it's as big of a problem or really truly exists to the extent that people think it does. But the idea being that, someone goes into welfare and to continue getting their welfare benefits, they stay under a certain amount of income per year so that they can continue getting those instead of using that welfare to get on their feet to get something bigger and better. I don't think that it's an accurate portrayal at all.
That's a very common belief.
Yeah,
but
that's what I mean.
It turns out it doesn't make sense. Mathematically, it doesn't make sense that if you're close to the line, you're not going to take less work to lose those benefits because going over that line means you're making more in those benefits anyway. It's over the break-even point.
It's like I said, it's
so
only if
stupid.
I'm wearing fucking Reagan Ronald goggles
that
I can see it falling under that.
You can see on paper it sounds like that.
That one was so heavily pointed at when I was looking through stuff.
Yeah.
And for one final, well, not one final nail in the coffin, I'll talk about. Yeah, I got a little.
Yeah,
time.
you got
I can
time.
talk about mine. On an Indonesian island, Java, a paleontologist offered to pay for fragments of a specific kind of ape skull. He found out that locals were finding larger pieces of skulls or full skulls.
Oh, no.
They would smash them and break them down, and they would bring it in per
Piece by piece.
rather than
The whole
bringing in a whole skull, which is worth so much more. If someone took a whole skull to him, he probably would have been like, "Hey, I don't need any more. Like, fuck,
Yeah, we're
here's
set."
all of my money."
Because he's trying to recreate probably one of these
he's just
skulls.
like, I have so many fucking puzzle pieces.
Oh, no.
But yeah, it could have been something so much more beneficial, but because his initial idea was just bring in, I'll pay you per piece of skull. It's like, fuck.
Oh, jeez. That's I've heard of shit like that before.
So
It's
in almost conclusion, take advantage of programs when you can.
Yeah.
Because eventually they're going to regulate and limit the ability to do so. So I mean, if it's there, fucking
May as
go
well
for
take
it.
advantage.
Unless you live in a historical monument and you destroy it, then fuck you.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my I feel like mine isn't so much perverse incentive. It's just I took advantage of a system. I don't know
Same
so
thing.
much of it is perverse incentive. I don't think that there was really any like downside. I mean, I guess Subway lost a lot of money.
Yeah. That's the downside. So I think it's a perverse incentive.
I thought a lot about this while I was writing
Oh,
this.
yeah.
I was like, did my Subway shit, like, is that perverse incentive or is that me just like taking...
It can be both.
So, back in like 2015, Subway had just started. Actually, I think it even goes back into like 2013. They had started their whole like rewards program, but it was like on cards and registering cards, right? Like the rewards cards. So, I was doing summer sales in Detroit, and I was fucking like, I wasn't selling anything. I hated the company that I worked for.
I mean, you were too honest.
Yeah.
You were too honest.
I really was. I was like, you really don't need this. I'm not a good salesman. So I would sell I would make maybe $100 a month. Like maybe. I think there was one month where I only made like $50.
Oh, shit.
It's not a lot to live off of.
So I always wanted to know, are you renting at this point?
No, so
or is
the
it
way
part
that
of the
it-
summer sales?
The way that it worked is you would basically sign a contract.
Mm-hmm.
You would you'd get like 25% of the total of the sale, which we would sell like anywhere between like $400. No, it was anywhere between $200 to like $700 like yearly accounts.
Yeah.
Right? Depending on like their square footage, but truly it was just bullshit. We would just try to kick somebody with a bigger house up to upsell them for our own benefit. The price was so fluid. I could have sold everybody at $400 if I wanted to. And that was kind of what my pitch became towards the end. I was like, hey, look, anybody else that comes through here is going to try to sell you at like $125 every quarter. We can go as low as $65.
Nice.
And that's like the minimum. I can get you on that. And people were like, I'm just not interested. And I was like, hey, fair. It's not worth it. The techs aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Nice.
So
Great salesman.
I was fucking weird.
Best
I was like an
salesman.
anti-fucking Terminix employee. Like I was just like awareness rather than sales. So, back to Subway.
Okay. Oh, yeah, but you didn't
because-
say what's your living.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So
Sorry.
we would make that money, and then at the end, they would pay like all of the back end second quarter in October, and they would take all of your rental and everything that would have been paid for by the company, or everything that was paid for by the company over the course of the summer. They would take that out of what they called your first back end check, which was like $3,000, I think. And so it was like if you sold 125 accounts, I think is what they shot for, like your first back end check, you would still get like a fucking $10,000 check even after all of that. Yeah. But
Okay.
that's
so
luckily
you're basically a coal miner in company housing.
So I lucked out because my boss, like my district manager, really liked me, because generally if you're selling that poorly, they're like, hey, it's not beneficial for us to keep you housed there.
Yeah, because they're losing
They'll just send you home. They kept me there because I was like, I'm really trying. I'm trying so hard.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was like, I don't want to go back home yet. And like, I don't
this is an escape.
Yeah, I don't want to be fired from another job. And so I was just like, I promise I'll try. And then the last month I was like, I'm not going to try, and they're not going to send me home. So I lucked out because he was like, yeah, D would have been fucked. Like, I would have gotten a $3,000 fucking bill. They would have been like, figure it out. And I think they were like, well, we know he didn't make that much money over the summer. So yeah, generally it comes out of your back end. So I was kind of living more or less like rent and utility free for like 4 months, I think. So what I would do is I would go into Subways, and I already had like 5 or 6 of these cards. And I would go in, and while I was ordering, I would sneak over and I would just take like a full stack of like 10 of these fucking rewards cards. Why, I'm sure you're asking? Because if you went online to subway.com/rewards, you could enter in the card number, and then you could put in any email address and any fucking phone number. It could be like 123 Sesame Street at gmail.com. There were no verification emails for it.
Hell yeah.
You would not get a verification text because this is all so new to everything. Really all it was, hey, go online and register your card and you'll get 50 free points. So what I started doing was I would take all these cards and I would take them home and I would scratch off the back, put in all of the numbers just for like hours while we're watching TV or like while my buddy's playing video games and I'm just sitting there. Like, I don't have any fucking friends in the area, so like I'm not going to go hang out with anyone. I'm just sitting in this fucking apartment in Michigan. Yeah. And so I would just put in numbers and put in emails and put in fucking phone numbers and register, and then I would put a little slash on the front of it with a marker. And then I would take these cards, I would go into Subway, and for a good like 2 or 3 months, all I ate every day was Subway for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because 50 points would get you one of their like basic Subway sandwiches. And 50 points could get you like a drink and like a couple bags of chips, or like drink, chips, and cookie. I don't know. And so I'd show up and I'd have like 5 cards in my pocket and I'd go, hey, I have a bunch of these. Can I just get all these points put on one card and I'll just use it? And in a lot of cases, they'd be like, oh, I'll just run it as like 3 or 4 different transactions.
Yeah, because they don't give a fuck.
They don't give a
sure.
shit. And they also are like, this guy isn't trying, like, in a lot of cases, they weren't like, oh, this guy's gaming a fucking system.
No, he's just like, oh, this guy has 4 email addresses. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, no, I mean, not even that. They're just like, they're like, oh, yeah, I'd go like, in some cases I go, oh yeah, I just grab one every time I'm here and I just forget to use it. I have a few points remaining, even though it was exactly 50 on every card. So I would go in and I would get free food and I would walk back home and I would actually fucking eat. Or when they would drop me off in areas, because of how sales works, they would drop me off in a neighborhood. And so I would search Subway near me, and I would walk over to a Subway.
Hell yeah. Who needs lunch, sales?
Grab a ton of cards. And even if they were to be like, hey, don't do that again if you come here.
You're like, okay.
I'm like, I'm not going to be here tomorrow anyway because I'm going to be in a different neighborhood. So I ended up going to the Subway that was really close to our apartments. It was like just down the street. I would walk over there, and there was a girl that worked there that she kind of got the gist of what I was doing, and she was like, oh, yeah, I'll just put all the points on one card. And so at one point I had like, I don't even fucking know how many points on one card, but I had like thousands of points. And I would just use that card, and whenever I would grab more, I would go up to her and be like, hey, can you add these to it? And she's like, yeah, for sure. And she would be like, oh, yeah, like, I'll hook you up. You want, like, these things. This is what you like. Because I would go every single fucking
for every
day.
meal.
For everything.
Holy, yeah.
Because that was, I didn't have
What
money.
else do you
I
do?
didn't
You
have
got no money.
for groceries.
You're
and
not doing sales.
I was tired of asking my parents, hey, can you send me, like, $100 for groceries? And they're like, yeah. And then I'm like, well, I do want to drink this weekend.
Yeah.
And so
Classic.
it's like $50 to booze and then $50 to, like,
food for the next month.
Snacks for the next week, and then I would still just eat fucking Subway. So I ate Subway for a good like 3 months, like exclusively.
And that was still when Subway was like pretty good.
Yeah, it was. It was
well.
Just
this is Detroit.
it was
so.
just after. Actually, it was the exact same time all of the stuff about Jared came out that he was like fucking kids and everything, and. They didn't do the rewards program because of that. It had been going on before that. But it was like every time I walked in, I'd be like, oh, fuck. Like, these are starting to die. Like, I'm on the peak.
Yeah, you were right
before
there.
the downturn of Subway. But I know what
ate.
So many different Subways looked like.
You know what? You scrapped and you survived.
Yeah. So at one point, the girl that worked there, she was like, she didn't have any of them out on the little display, probably because I stole them the day before. And I was like, hey, do you have any more of those? And she goes, yeah. And she brought out one of those like sleeves of like
Holy
cards,
shit.
which they're like a foot long. And it's just like card.
That's got to be like tens of thousands of dollars.
Oh, easily. So I took advantage of it. And then I got home from summer sales. And like I would
no money to your name, just a stack of Subway cards,
just a bunch of Subway rewards points. And like I would, as silly as it sounds, I would be like, "Hey, my two brothers are at home. My mom and my dad are there," and I'd be like, "Hey, do you guys just want Subway for dinner?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, for sure." And I would go to Subway, local Subway, and I would just be like, "Hey, can I get?" Fucking like an entire family's worth of food for free, and I would.
Damn.
And they ended up changing the program within the year. It changed from it being like 20 or 50 points per card to like 20, and it was just not beneficial at all.
Not worth it.
Yeah, I lived off of exploiting Subway's reward system for about 6 months.
For 6 months, damn.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So the moral of the story is, fuck corporations.
No, I mean, Subway was the reason I was able to fucking pay off debt and move to San Diego.
Oh, hell yeah. Subway.
Yeah, because I started working and I wouldn't have to worry about dinner or lunch.
When you die, I'm putting a Subway logo on your grave.
You should, yeah. D's Debt brought to you by Subway.
That's great.
So yeah, that's my perverse incentive, I guess, if in a roundabout way.
Yeah.
So yeah, take advantage of anything corporate. If you see a loophole, utilize it because somebody else will do it before you.
Yeah, and somebody else will get caught.
Yeah.
Which will close the loophole. So do it as fast and hard as you can.
Yep. Live fast, die young.
Live fast, eat ass.
So as always, you guys should check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/pointsopressure for ad-free episodes. You get to listen on the cool exclusive RSS feed that you make. It looks fancy. It makes you feel like you're an exclusive club. So subscribe to us and you get ad-free. You get a free episode every single week. I should have just made my Subway exploit the exclusive episode this week.
Damn. Now just go watch the Spiffing Brits video on real world exploits.
In all honesty,
go watch that and then make that into an episode.
Spiffing Brit is the perfect.
He's the perfect example of this
perversive
incentive guy.
Incentive piece of shit. I love his channel. Check it out.
It's great.
But yeah, if, like I said at the start of the show, AJ's working on a series called Voices. We have a bunch of sloppy seconds on there. Check it out. We would greatly appreciate it. And if you can't afford it, make a free account. We don't judge. We're just happy to see that we have support on there. 2 more episodes this half of the season. We'll have an exact date. Probably next week. I'll have the exact date when we'll come back for the the second half of season 7. So you got us 2 more times, and then if you want us more, subscribe to our Patreon. Yeah, you got those
The content
names?
continues on Patreon.
Yeah, true.
Of course. We've got Mini D, Thomas, and Toddle Waddle. They did not and were never affiliated with Jared from Subway. We're not allowed to cut the feed. And then, of course, we've got Abby, AJ's Third Nut, Nordic Thunder, Weston, Dark Runner, D's Nuts, G-Dog, Grover, Hayden, and Laravo, and Lindo. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you guys being here and letting us keep doing this.
Yeah, you make it so that I don't have to live off of free Subway every single month now.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
He's lost 400 pounds already.
No, it was actually the opposite. I gained so much weight because I was eating Subway every
No, I mean,
fucking
because you
day.
stopped.
Oh,
you
yeah,
stopped
yeah.
eating Subway.
Well, I mean, probably both. They both attributed. That's the perverse incentive.
That's the perverse incentive.
Oh, shit. Well, if you guys would ever like to reach out, if you have ideas for, episodes, you see an article that pertains to something we did an episode on and you would like to talk about it, reach out to us. Feel free to message us with any recommendations for like movies, TV shows, music, books, dirty magazines, funny memes. One of them TikToks you seen.
One of them TikToks.
Send them along to us at our Instagram, PointSoPressure. Feel free to email us at ppdnaj, all the letters, at gmail.com, or go to our fucking subreddit, r/pressure points, and we'll catch you guys next Monday.